So I met a homeschool mom who wanted to teach her son about alphabets, but every time she taught him, he just was not getting it. So instead, she started watching YouTube videos on how to teach him his letters and his sounds, but guess what? He still was not getting it. So she reached out to me for help with this issue. And when I tell you, I just finished working with her, she nailed it. Her son was struggling with reading, and her procrastination and getting guidance actually prolonged his process. She tried everything to help him herself. She bought all the homeschool books. She watched all the YouTube videos. She even bought him reading books, and still nothing was working. After almost an entire year of being frustrated with teaching him his letters and his sounds, she finally had enough, and she finally reached out to me about my one-on-one consulting services. This by far was the best thing she could have ever done for her son. Not because of me or anything, of course, but because she finally took action and went to a professional who could actually help her. Starting off, I had her give her son an assessment, thus showing us exactly how many uppercase and lowercase letters her son could recognize by name, and even how many letter sounds he actually mastered. To our surprise, he did not know any letter sounds, and he could only recognize 5 uppercase letters. So we had our work cut out for us. Within 4 weeks, he mastered all of his letter recognitions, meaning that he knew the names of every uppercase and every lowercase letter, and he even mastered his letter sounds. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire process that I use with her, as it too will help you with your struggling reader. And if your child's not struggling, then it's even going to help you just teach letter recognition and letter sounds. So let's get into it. Now, oftentimes as educators and parents, we push activities on our children simply because it's what they should be doing at a certain age or grade level. For example, at 7 years old, a child should be reading and writing sentences. However, the problem for some parents, and this was the problem that my client faced, is that her child simply wasn't ready for this activity. Some children absolutely hate learning, and it seems like you're simply pulling out hair and pulling out teeth to get them to read, write, or just sit down and learn. So then what happens then? For my client, this was her reality. As stated earlier, our first step was to give an assessment, not because we wanted to just give a test, but because we needed to identify her child's strengths and weaknesses. I didn't want to just take her word that he was struggling with letter recognition, so I gave her my own assessment. Now, the assessment that I use with my one-on-one clients just allows us to identify which phrase of reading a child falls in. Once we have identified that phrase, we're then able to kind of key in on exactly what skills a child lacks or what skills a child has mastered. This allowed us to easily identify what was stopping her son's progression forward. After administering the assessment to him, it was very clear that he was struggling, like she said, with letter recognition, especially with lowercase letter recognition and mastery of letter sound. This was an aha moment for her because, just like most parents, she didn't know to introduce him to uppercase letters and lowercase letters simultaneously. And so because she wasn't doing this, her son only memorized the capital letters. Believe it or not, this is a very common thing that you see, which is why after this video, I really suggest you watching this other video that really teaches you how to teach uppercase and lowercase letters. Now that we had a focus, we were all set to set short-term and long-term goals around this data. Now, I said this to say because my client, just like so many other parents out there, she was giving her son all of these reading assignments because in first grade, he should be reading. She was giving him all of these reading assignments, but he couldn't read simply because he didn't even know his letter sounds. And so identifying the problem was step number one. It wasn't just giving him resources simply because he was at that particular grade level. Now, because I know that you can't expect a child to read just because they're in first grade, if they don't even know their letter names and letter sounds, I knew that this needed to be an even more realistic goal for us. I grouped all of his unmastered letters into 3 different groups. This allowed the goal of teaching letter recognition more manageable, as she just had a few letters to focus on at a time. Now, just in case you are wondering, no, I didn't just like throw letters in a group. I used research and the ease of learning letter formation and sound formation in order to create these groups. Having these groups allowed her to hone in on the sequence of letter mastery. Next, I gave her a bank of engaging low prep games and activities that actually are included in my program Teaching by Design, and these these activities and low prep games allowed her to teach letter recognition with easy implementation. She used these games and activities to effectively teach her son as she consistently followed her new teaching schedule that we worked on. Within 1 week, her son mastered the first group of letters and he was now motivated to learn. Yes! One of the reasons it was so frustrating to teach him was because he simply, like most other boys, lacked motivation to learn. By using these really fun games and activities, she saw her son actually become engaged for the very first time. Well, I continued to teach her how to use other tools like guiding questions in order to facilitate his learning, and after 4 weeks, he ended up mastering all 3 groups, thus mastering all of his letter sounds and uppercase and lowercase recognition. I was ecstatic. In fact, I want to give her a public shout out. You go, girl. We surpassed our short-term goal weeks before either one of us thought we would make it there. We set out for 6 weeks and he mastered them in 4. You go, girl. Just because we met our goal didn't mean we were done. Oh no. We then reevaluated our goals and began to change our path to phonemic awareness and the blending of sounds. Now that her son could recognize letters and say the letter sounds, we were ready to teach him how to manipulate sounds and then begin to do a few more phonics activities, pairing the letter sounds that he could hear and manipulate to the letter names that he actually saw. This is the benefit of working with a coach that can personalize their consulting services and quickly adjust, making your needs a reality. You can actually get the support that you need and deserve. You see, had she not taken action and come to me, she would have continued to struggle with homeschooling her son, and the gap, that learning gap he had, would have continued to widen. Her son had a major learning gap. Here he was at the age where most children are reading sentences, even books, yet he didn't even know his letter names and letter sounds. So I wanted to give her this public shout out because she decided to do something that would actually make a difference and ease the burnout that she was facing. What I've shared with you today is not theory. These are actual steps that I made to help my homeschool mother in need. She had no teaching experience, no teaching background. She just had a passion to help her child. I want to encourage that homeschool mom just like her who is struggling with teaching their child and give you some encouragement, letting you know that you too can teach your child how to read without experiencing teaching burnout, even if you have no teaching background. All you need is a coach who will personalize their services to give you what you need. I cannot wait to join you hand in hand so that I can help you just like I helped her. If you are just like my client and you too are struggling when it comes to teaching concepts, whether it's letter recognition or even teaching a child how to blend CVC words, I would love to jump on a free discovery call with you in order to see how I can best serve you. Who knows, you may be the next public shout out. Hey girl.